Good evening, everybody. We are live and the direct from the Illuminerdi Wrestling Order Studios. I am Giandra LaBeouf, and we are here for another installment of the Illuminerdi World Order Wrestling Show. We are changing up the energy a little bit this week because our boy Nate wants to be on vacation. I don't know who approved that, but he's not here, so we're going to let him have this Sunday off. But we got the boss man, one of the boss men in the house, Big Joe, who's going to hold it down with me this week. And that's pretty exciting because there would be no me without Joe. So without further ado, let me bring in Joe. What's up, Joe?
We're all a team here, Jay. I'm so happy to be here. I love wrestling. I like how my name tag still says Nathan Has Skill. So I'm holding it down for my buddy Nate. But thank you for letting me on your show. And I appreciate all you guys in the chat right now. We got Edward Sanchez, Jezer, and DDT Cosplay. I know that DDT Cosplay in the chat right now, he's a huge fan of Johnny Wrestling.
Ooh.
So shout out to little Johnny Gargano. Prime Time is also in the chat with that fire. We're going to be getting into wrestling today. I'm excited about it. Jay, in the world of wrestling right now, if we were just kind of bullshitting around, who's catching your eye the most right now? Male or female?
Male, I would say Apollo Cruz, because now I'm really excited to see what he can do. We know how he is so acrobatic and he's so cool, and he never really got that big push. So I want to see what he does with it on the male side. On the female side, for the same reason, Sonya Deville. We got to see her solo dolo this week on SmackDown. I really like her. She's got a fast personality. She kicks ass. So I'm going to go for those two to see what they're going to do over the coming weeks. What about you?
You know what? I'm going to have to agree with you on Apollo Crews 100%. Finally, this dude gets some recognition in WWE. I almost was a little worried that he was going to go the Zack Ryder route.
Yeah, totally.
He has every single tangible. He has all the ability in the world. I felt like he was being held back just a little bit by some of the powers that be. So happy that he finally won his first championship in WWE. On the women's side of things, though, honestly, the one that piques my interest the most is Asuka. I actually think Asuka's doing a hell of a job as a women's champion, a WWE Raw women's champion. I actually like the fact that she's keeping me entertained, even though the man's not around.
That's right. Put some respect on both their names. You know, Asuka is so entertaining. I don't know what the hell Asuka is saying because I don't speak Japanese beyond like Doi Tashimashite, but Asuka kills me every week. She's so funny, she's so entertaining, and she's such an epic wrestler. So long live the Empress of Tomorrow, and I hope she has a good lengthy reign like the reign that they messed up when they brought her up to the main roster. So Asuka finally gets her push, and I'm happy about that. But we are here for another week.
Would you have had Asuka lose her match against Charlotte at WrestleMania?
Hell no. I mean, damn, how many times does Charlotte have to win? And it's not a Charlotte hate. Before y'all start, Jay don't like Charlotte. She's hating. I'm not hating on Charlotte, but it's like, it's a lot of other talented people on the roster too. Can somebody else give a turn? Especially somebody like Asuka, who is a proven champion, wrestling style, fan-friendly. Fans love her. She kills it. She has a good gimmick. Adding the Muta nod even took her mystique up that much more. They need to have her spitting back the green mist again. So Asuka got it all, and I hope she stays healthy, injury-free, so she can keep going off on the rants every week. But you don't have to chant. Asuka, if you're watching, you don't have to chant Becky no more. We love Becky too, but it's your time. You got to cheer for yourself.
She can't stay injury-free if she gets in the ring with Nia Jax, and you know all about that. There's a big story going around. Nia Jax injured seemingly another opponent, and now WWE's outlawing the buckle bomb move. I know you're a big defender of Nia Jax. Chat me up about this one. What do we got?
I'm so sad for us. So for those of you who haven't been tuned in this week, I know there's a lot of world events going on that's been keeping your viewing occupied. But unfortunately, and the match has yet to air from what I understand, there's been another injury involving Nia Jax where she's injured Kairi Sane. And reportedly, the injury has to do with Nia throwing her into the stairs and her getting a cut on her head. But she's had some other injuries too. And we'll talk about the buckle bomb as well. But at this point, I'm not sure if I can defend Nia Jax. You know, it all with the Becky, with the broken nose. She's had some injuries with Alexa. And it has nothing to do with her size and her ability. We've had many, many wrestlers over the history of wrestling where there was someone substantially bigger and someone substantially smaller, and it didn't result in all of these high risk potential career injury ending injuries.
Right.
So at this point, I don't know what you do with Nia. People are saying she's being kept around because she's the Rock's family and she keeps giving opportunity after opportunity. I like her. I think my thing with Nia Jax is more so with her character, because I feel like they never know what to do with her. She's big, so that automatically makes her a heel, but she's so pretty and people like her, so maybe she should be a face. It's like they never know what to do with her. But if she's still injuring people, maybe it's time to pull her back off. Maybe she's a little rusty when she was out having knee surgery. Put her back in, well, they're all in the performance center, but you know, maybe a little return back to basics. How do you heal a wrestler who's got this stigma of injuring people, Joe?
I don't know if you do. I agree with all your points. I think Nia Jax is beautiful, number one. Number two, I think that I think that it's very easy to mishandle her because she's what WWE considers a monster, especially in the women's division. So I understand that they want to book her as a heel because that's a natural transgression if you're that size and stature, especially being a female in WWE. But I do think that some of her shining moments did come when she was a face. I remember that bullying angle, Jay, where Alexa was bullying her, and I actually felt sympathy for her. But I also felt like that was such a great, not bullying, obviously, but I think that was a great message to send to fans that you can be anybody, just whoever you are. I actually think she's great for female empowerment as well. I like Nia Jax overall. In some of the accidents that have happened in the ring, I don't particularly think all of them are her fault. I just kind of think that, it's happened with her the most, and they all just kind of get pushed under the rug. And unfortunately, she just has a bad reputation for hurting people. Another one that did too was Brie Bella.
Yeah.
We can't forget Brie Bella because especially towards the end of her run in WWE, she was hurting a lot of girls too. And Brie Bella, she's a trained pro. I mean, accidents happen. You don't sign up for ballet, you're signing up for pro wrestling. So I don't necessarily think you can retrain that, but I do think that she should hone her craft a little bit more, spend a little bit more time in the performance center, and hell, maybe even, you know what, especially since Raw has Shayna Baszler, maybe they want to exclusively send Nia Jax down to NXT.
Maybe so. You know, going back to what you said, to your point about Nia's story angle when they were doing the bullying thing with Alexa Bliss, and I think it was Mickie James when they were doing their tag team thing. What made that so effective and resonated with the fans was the best shoots are always rooted in the truth. And I read some things over the years that there are women in the locker room, I don't know if they currently are still that way, that were bullying her and telling her she couldn't wrestle and she wasn't very good and she was this and she was that. And probably a lot of that came bubbling out from her life and just how people have treated her. All the best shoots always have some truth rooted in them. So maybe a return to that, or maybe an to take with her since she is a monster. Maybe do a kind of like an Undertaker light type of reimagining of her character where she speaks less, because she's not terrific on the mic. She's not horrible. She's not great because it's clear she's a nice person. And when she tries to be mean, it's like, and I'm going to beat you up, and it still comes across like that. So maybe more of a brooding, quieter, kind of like what they do with Tamina. But I think they could do more things with her. Give her a few signature moves. The Undertaker does his choke slam and his, give her a few signature moves to do and make her more of a brood. If they're going to do a heel thing, make her brood. If they're going to make her a face thing, make her not a comic act, but I just think there's more things they can do with her. But
yeah, I like the essence of female empowerment for that character if they go face route. And I think the perfect antagonist for her is honestly Shayna Baszler. I think that you match those two up, and especially Shayna Baszler with her MMA background, her being the natural bully, it would be only obvious, especially if Shayna Baszler's beating down everybody in that Raw's women's division, and you putting them all down verbally as well. The one that should stand up to her is Nia Jax, because she's been bullied all her life, and she's like, you know what, I'm going to stand up to you. And I think that would create such an epic clash at SummerSlam.
That's a good ass idea, Joe. I like that. Let me write that down so I can send that over to creative. I like that a lot. But as far, we talked last week when Nate was here, we talked about Shayna Baszler and Vince not wanting to give her a push for whatever reasons. You all fill in the blank of why you think Vince won't give her a push, but maybe this is a way that everyone could be happy. She's a rough and tumble girl. She could get with Nia. That frees up the other ladies in the division to pursue their respective storylines, from Asuka to Bliss, Bliss is in a tag team, but frees up the other ladies to do other things. I think I read Mickie James is going to wants to come back. You got Lacey Evans out there who don't know what to do. You got a whole bunch of the ladies are just kind of all over the place with no real storyline. The only real storyline we had was Asuka and Becky. So maybe this is an opportunity to develop something else, because they're not doing too well by the ladies in terms of storylines, right?
Yeah, I mean, Master Shakes in the chat, he brings up a great point. He says, and then the bell rings and Nia can't back it up in the ring. I don't disagree with that. I actually think that if she's going to be featured heavily on either brand or whatever brand it may be, it needs to be with the performer that can actually make her look good. Look, if a lot of these other women that she gets in the ring with can bump around for her, the matches can be great. It really comes to the point when it's somebody that can't necessarily or isn't necessarily at that level, her matches aren't going to be great. Nia Jax, I don't think Nia Jax is one of the best female wrestlers we have. I think she's very unique and I think she's talented, but in terms of her actual ability, I think that's where she lacks a little bit. So somebody like an Asuka or somebody that could just bump around for her really well, can make her look really good. I think that's the treatment you got to give Nia Jax. She needs more seasoning. That time off really hurt her. They shouldn't have rushed back to the main roster. She needs more seasoning. She needs to be better disciplined if she's going to last long in pro wrestling.
Exactly. Maybe this is a good opportunity. She could take some notes, for lack of a better comparison, to say like the New Day, how you have Big E and Kofi is like the workhorse and Big E is the power. He comes in, he jumps in off the tag, he does a couple clotheslines, he does a Samoan drop, have her do things like that. Maybe a permanent matchup with, she was doing well. I thought she and Tamina were doing things well. But, Tamina's up there, too. Shout out to all my ladies in the 40 club and the over 40 club. Tamina's up there. And so when they were doing their little tag thing, they had a good energy going where Tamina was doing more of the workhorse type of stuff and Nia was finishing the matches. So that's a possibility, too. But we don't want any more injuries because it's already slim pickings as it is.
It really is. It really is. And I think the talent, I mean, with the exception of Io Shirai and Rhea Ripley, maybe a few others. There's a few others that are in NXT right now that are killing it, but I don't want them to be picked up from NXT because it's going to leave them just so bare. And I think NXT is legitimately the best wrestling brand on planet Earth currently right now. So, absolutely. I mean, hopefully Nia Jax can work it out, get a little bit better, and get some good dancing partners in there to really sell for her, make her look like this monster that she is right now.
Absolutely. Those of you who are in the chat, who do you think Nia Jax should be bumping and going about with in the ring there? Drop your suggestions below. Tweet them to us on Twitter at the Illuminerdi. Tell us who you think Nia Jax should be in the mix with. There are possibilities. Take the blinders off. Don't judge her wrestling ability just because you may not find her attractive, which is what I find that a lot of fans who are really disparaging to her abilities, they're looking at it from the gaze of well, I just think she needs to lose weight or she needs to do that. Get the hell out of here. Tell us who you want her to wrestle with, because there is a lot of opportunity there for her. Hell, there's opportunity in the future for a new Samoan faction, of having a good, strong women's Samoan faction, just in case The Rock's daughter, Simone Johnson, makes her debut and moves up. You never know. We might get, shout out to all the Samoan families out there. We might have the birth of, have we ever had a true Samoan women faction other than Nia and Tamina? Could be a first.
I don't think so. Not women, at least. I don't think so, at least. It's a very good question. I don't think so, though.
Yeah, it could be a new dawn. It could be a new dawn. So let us know what you think. On that same vein, why don't we talk a little bit about SummerSlam? We're a little bit out from SummerSlam, but we have to start kind of paving the road of how we're going to get there, because it has to make sense. One of the biggest complaints that fans have is that the storylines don't make sense when we arrive at the pay-per-view, and the trail doesn't match of how we got to the matches. So currently, when we look at the women's division and the men's division, we'll start with the women since we're already there. We have Asuka's the Raw champ. We've got Charlotte as the NXT champ, and Bayley is the SmackDown champ. And we've got Bliss and Cross, who are the tag champs. Let's start with Bayley. Bayley finally, is a grand champion who has held all of the titles. She's got her things going on back and forth, her and Alexa, or who are they tussling with over there? Her and Sasha are having their thing every week with whoever they feel like throwing them in every week. And I'm just knock it off, and let's just get to the Bayley Sasha thing that we know is going to get there eventually. So if we know that's probably going to be the culmination, events like Sasha this year at next year's WrestleMania, what is the path to get Bayley to Sasha to have this feud at the next WrestleMania here in Los Angeles? And SummerSlam is the next stop on that path. So with Bayley, who do you want to see Bayley in?
You know what? I know you're booking Bayley and Sasha for WrestleMania. I actually think it's going to happen a lot quicker. I think it'll be SummerSlam. I feel like they're going to pull the trigger on a lot of feuds they've been building up. I would love it to be at WrestleMania, because I honestly think that Bayley and Sasha have never had a bad match. They've had some scares, but never had a bad match. That Iron Woman match was phenomenal that they had a few years back. I would love to see them clash at WrestleMania. I think, though, that it's going to end up happening for SummerSlam, mainly for the declining ratings, and both of those women can bring it. So I think that they're going to end up fast tracking that. I think we'll see Bayley and Sasha this year's SummerSlam. But the way that we get there, you can see it building up every single week on SmackDown. Yeah. It's just building, and I think we get that payoff coming this year's SummerSlam.
I'm just confused on how they're going to get there, because just the storytelling has been all over the place, because you've got Charlotte popping up from NXT talking crazy to Sasha about how she's basically Bayley's hanger-on. And so you got that. And then you've got, people skipping around brand to brand to brand to brand. And I feel like how they branded Sasha, but I'm very confused on how do we get to the feud legitimately where it makes sense.
It's going to end up having to be, you can obviously tell they're forming it in a way where they're making sure that Bayley is not the aggressor in any stretch of the imagination. So my guess is it's going to have to be something where Bayley or Sasha actively costs Bayley like a match for the title, lose by disqualification, and then turns on her, or it's really going to be Sasha just putting the screws to Bayley, or hell, even putting them in a match ahead of time at SummerSlam, where a non-title match or whatever for the championship, where Sasha gets the upper hand, and then Sasha wants to go off on her own and really show that she can do it. But here's the interesting thing here, because I love Sasha Banks as a heel. I think Sasha Banks as a heel is perfect. With that being said, I don't know who plays the heel in this. I'm assuming it's Bayley, because her heel work more recently has been so out of this world good, and I don't want to see Bayley be turned back to a face.
I don't.
So
either.
do you think Sasha's the one that does the face turn?
I don't know. They might have to do some full heel on heel action because they're both so good at heels. Maybe they're creating a whole new lane for women where it's not as simple as a heel and a face, and there's more of a gray area, kind of how they do with Braun Strowman. Like, I never know what Braun is from week to week. Lately, Drew McIntyre's been real, ha ha, I'm the bad guy, but I'm the champ and I love everyone. So I don't know. Maybe they have to create another lane, but Sasha, it just radiates. The heel just radiates from her, and it's so good. And Bayley, they just keep making each other better and better and better every single week. And they're just going to have to be a couple of bad bitches and just keep down the heel road with each other. And there's just not going to be a good guy. And it's just going to be a matter of which heel you like better, because sometimes it's not as simple as good and evil. Let us look to past favorite, The Wire. Let us look to The Wire. Let's look at McNulty for you Wire fans out there. You liked McNulty, but McNulty wasn't shit, but you still liked McNulty for whatever reason. And I feel like that's what they have to do. I think Bayley, I would like it more. Bayley initiated it where she was doing some real shady stuff. Like, she gets a big win over whomever they want to put her in something with Charlotte where Charlotte doesn't become Charlotte 2 belts, and then she wins, and then she looks at Sasha like, you could learn something from me. And they start kind of doing it that way. Like, oh, I was always in your shadow, Sasha, but look at me now. You could learn something.
And it will also be the first time that Sasha is playing the face role and Bayley playing the heel in a match. I think that could be interesting as well, especially showing what those girls can do with the dynamic of Bayley really embracing this heel character now, which I think is brilliant. We do have a chat. I want to get to this. DDT David, he says they're going to turn Sasha face, which is not the best for Sasha. I want heel Sasha on the main roster. Boss is heel. I agree. I think we both agree on that. Go ahead.
What I fear about that is, like, look at The Miz. I've always loved The Miz as a heel. And The Miz is still technically a heel, but The Miz is a family guy. And he's got these cute-ass kids, and Maurice is so beautiful. And, I mean, The Miz is not really a heel anymore. Is he a heel? He's a likable heel. I don't want Bayley to be a likable heel. I want her to be an asshole. And I want Sasha to be an asshole. And I like how they've redone her with her new hair and her new ring gear. And I'm very, very rich. And Vince makes me very, very rich. Like, how do you go back to face after that? It just doesn't make sense.
And look, the erratic booking of WWE currently right now is crazy. I feel like it's all over the place. It's whim to whim. I feel that it's interesting because I feel like we're in an era. Do you remember when the draft was still like a thing, but they had these God, what were they called? Where different people can appear on whatever brand they wanted.
Yeah.
I feel like we're back in that era. Like, we're back in this. And I remember very clearly when Fox got the deal to have a SmackDown, and they were doing this big, like, well, no, these brands are going to be separate for sure. No crossovers, they're separate brands. Here we are. Charlotte's on every show.
Every damn show.
Speaking of Charlotte, do you see her defending that NXT championship at SummerSlam?
Oh, of course. You're not going to have a pay-per-view without Charlotte on a pay-per-view. Hell, you might have Charlotte wrestling a man on a pay-per-view. You just never know. Vince loved him some Charlotte. And however, the only way Charlotte in that show is if she gets injured, and like a bad injury. And even then, they'll probably still have her coming out in a wheelchair on some crutches. Charlotte's going to be on the show, regardless. How they work her in, maybe she finally gets into a match with Rhea Ripley or something like that on the show, which would be great. But before we switch over to NXT, one person that we're missing, well, we haven't got to Raw yet. Never mind. We'll wait for Raw. But I'd like to see Charlotte mixing it up. I'd like to see Charlotte having a great fall. I love Charlotte as much as I love a good moonsault like everybody else, but goddamn, please, Vince, please, can we see someone else? Give Rhea a push. Give anybody a push. But
I love Rhea Ripley. I think she is my favorite wrestler in the company right now. I love Rhea Ripley. But yeah, Charlotte, it's almost crazy because I don't even know who I want to see Charlotte wrestle at SummerSlam.
Nope.
Like it's one of those things where it's kind of I felt like she's already wrestled everybody at this point. So like what I almost wish that now it's kind of like, well, they should have just not had her win the NXT championship or have her not run through every single person on all the rosters. But I don't know. Charlotte's tough because I don't actively know if I actually even want to see her at SummerSlam.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm so burnt out on Charlotte. So yeah,
I never fully understood why Charlotte even went to NXT.
Yeah, I know. Have her just wrestle like Lacey Evans or something. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't know what's next for Charlotte because I just feel that I'm not invested into her character at all.
Me neither. I mean, she needs a whole reboot too. I mean, I love the way she looks. I love her epic growth, but it's so dusty and old. And she needs a step up. And as a result of doing that same character, the queen girl, we know, a reboot, I would think she'd be asking for a reboot just to have something different. Maybe turn Charlotte into, she's so athletic. Maybe put her in a little luchador mask so no one knows who she is and have her, after she drops the belt, have her run up and muck up somebody's match just to give her something different to do. But she's one of those people like The Undertaker. She's always going to be that. So she gets tired of being that, it's always going to be that way.
There is an interesting angle that they could do. What they could do is they could really lead, and this really ties back into back into the Boss and Bayley, is what they could do is start planting the seeds and building up for the MMA 4 horsewomen against the WWE 4 horsewomen.
Yeah.
And after the Bayley Sasha match, they could really have Charlotte come out and be like, listen, we got to get our stuff together because they, let's say they get attacked by some of these MMA fighters that are in the other faction. They could really start building at SummerSlam to that WrestleMania 4-on-4 match, which I would be excited for. Granted, everything has to go like perfectly on time with the man's pregnancy, but to get her back into the ring at WrestleMania, I think that would be huge, especially with those four NXT horsewomen against those MMA with Ronda Rousey making her return. I think that could be huge.
Shout out to Becky, because I'm sure that Vince damn near wants to have a camera in the delivery room. So shout out to Becky. They've probably already laid out her pregnancy plan. Who her Lamaze coach is going to be. Vince probably already got it taken care of because we need you back to work for WrestleMania. So we're going to lay it all out for you now to make sure.
I'm pretty sure it's already a show on E. It's gonna come on after the Bella show about Seth and Becky, the man and the baby.
Oh my Lord!
I'm just kidding. That's not a real thing, but I can imagine.
Sorry, y'all. Fireworks. Fireworks. You can hear the dog. Shout out. The hood is quiet. Don't worry about me, but the fools are still popping fireworks. So if you see me flinch every once in a while, it's because my neighbors are setting off big fireworks and my dog is barking. But, as for the Bellas, I've had enough total Bellas. So, yeah, put the man and Seth Rollins, give them a little show over there with the Miz and Maurice. I don't know if they have as much personality as the Miz and Maurice, because Maurice is pretty funny too. But,
I think I just don't know so much about Seth, but I think Becky has the personality to carry him. Seth seems like a wet noodle. Like he just doesn't seem super entertaining to me whatsoever. I'll be honest with you, I have not been a fan of Seth Rollins ever since he entered WWE. I liked him when he was Tyler Black in Ring of Honor. I was a huge fan of him then when he was like wrestling Roderick Strong, but now I've kind of like, his style to me is that typical WWE style, and I think that he's a perfectly fine WWE wrestler, kind of like a Randy Orton.
Right.
He doesn't wow me like an AJ Styles or a Daniel Bryan.
Right. So, again, take it to the chat. We're talking about possible matchups for SummerSlam. We're going through the ladies right now. So we've talked Bayley, we've talked Charlotte, we talked Asuka. We don't have to spend a whole lot of time on women's tag team champion. My bad. You hear the dog. You hear him. We don't have to spend a whole lot of time on the tag champs because there's only one set of champs. I had such high hopes that WWE would have another set of tag team champions in the show. Sorry, y'all. The dog's tripping. I thought there would be another set of tag champs over on the other roster by now in terms of women, but there's not. We've got Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, who are still holding the belts. The Iconics have made their way back. So the only match that really interests me at SummerSlam is to see the Iconics against Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. Who do you want to see Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross? Is there anybody besides the Iconics? There's no more Sonya and Mandy. So what do we do?
They're really gonna have to throw a team together at the last minute. I really and luckily that's a championship that could travel for both brands. I would hope that it would be something outside the box, kind of like a Tegan Nox from NXT and Mia Yim, like something outside of the norm. I think would be kind of shaking things up. I do like the Iconics, but I think we've seen the Iconics and Alexa and Nikki a lot, especially in the past.
For sure.
So I just want something new. Let's give it to Mia Yim and whoever I just said.
And so I mean, there really isn't anyone. There's no more, unless they want to put Nia back in a tag team with Tamina. There really isn't anyone, and I don't think anybody wants to see them as tag champs. You know what?
I guess they could do Lacey and Naomi. They could do Lacey and Naomi and then have Naomi turn heel, which could be interesting because it seems like, it also seems like they're doing something weird with Dana, where she could team up with Dana Brooke maybe, and then have Naomi turn on Dana. The only thing is, Dana's not relevant enough for me to care about that heel turn when Naomi makes it though.
Yeah. They'll have to start. I don't know. I think it would be better for her to be into something with Lacey Evans because Lacey's already a heel, and the fans seem to
Lacey's a face now.
I know. I'm not so keen on Lacey. I haven't been so keen on her. I think her shtick is kind of tired and stuff. But she's a pretty cool wrestler. She's had a little botch here and there, but mistakes happen. I've never been super duper high on her, but she is lovely. I'd rather not have her be forced down my throat every single week like they were doing with her for a while, but I am definitely down for a Naomi heel turn. It is okay for the sister to be a bad girl. Make her into some type of like a Black Panther type of not Black Panther T'Challa, but Black Panther Pam Grier. She's already gone back to rocking the fro and doing that kind of soul power kind of look. Fuck it, flip it, make her a whole bad guy.
The way that just the media is, and we know that Vince likes taking hot topic issues and turning that into storyline, whether that be Sergeant Slaughter back when he joined the Iraqis, or whether that be or Muhammad Hassan back in the early 2000s. Vince likes taking hot topics like that, so I can see that happening. But that would actually be a decent angle that I think could get a lot of people really invested into Naomi as a character. But not only that, I just hope Vince, if he does that and makes her like this militant Black Panther type of character, I hope he actually doesn't turn her heel then. I actually think that she could get a lot of fan support because it's something reflecting people in the times now. And I think that would actually show WWE that they're actually paying attention and things, real things matter to them, even in the wrestling world. So I would kind of like that to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. For those of you who are watching, who've been following us on social media, a lot of WWE superstars have had the opportunity to, be more vocal on social issues lately. Used to be they couldn't say anything. So maybe this is the dawn of a new horizon. Maybe Vince is going to retire, and maybe we'll see what's happening with them. So that's a look at the ladies division for SummerSlam. So now switching over to the men, why don't we just start with the Intercontinental Championship, since we already have a match that's decided for the Intercontinental Championship. They took it off of Sami Zayn kind of unceremoniously. Shout out to Sami Zayn, Sami a real one. And we've now fast forwarded into a match between Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles. DB and AJ Styles for the Intercontinental Champion. Potential to be a super duper duper match.
Yeah, I think AJ walks away with the title though, completing his journey on winning. Did he win the tag team championship with Jericho or no?
No, I don't think he did.
First came in, he was teaming with Jericho. I remember that it was Y2AJ. I don't remember if you remember the tag team when they first came in together, or right after that Royal Rumble debut. But I could have swore that they won the tag team championship. If not, though, I feel that AJ's already won the United States Championship. He's a former WWE champion. I think that AJ walks away as the Intercontinental Champion. And I think he'll be defending that workhorse title. By the way, I hate the design of the new Intercontinental Championship.
It's really ugly.
But I do think AJ can go against one of those SmackDown workhorses. I'd actually love to see AJ and Jeff Hardy.
Yeah. Well, they've got Jeff Hardy in the mix. You know, they got Jeff Hardy running over Elias with his car, and
yeah, that's a really random story.
It's so. I mean, I know they rip it from the headlines, and they like to include people's personal lives in things, but you know, it often backfires. Look what happened with Dean Ambrose when they had him doing all that kind of crazy shit, and he ended up, or now John Moxley, you know, they had him doing all that kind of crazy stuff, and he walked the hell up out of there. And Matt Hardy's his brother Matt Hardy already went over to the other company, so don't push Jeff out because you need him. You need him.
I think Jeff. It'll be Jeff and AJ at this year's SummerSlam. I think AJ will go over, and I think Jeff is just biding his time until he's done with WWE, so he can go out with his brother in AEW.
Yeah, for sure. So we will see that matchup. That matchup won't be waiting. So I think that matchup takes place next week on SmackDown. So we'll see how that matches up. Which brings us to the equivalent belt on the Raw brand, which is Apollo Crews, who just recently took the belt off of Andrade Cien Almas, because we like full names on this show, Andrade Cien Almas. But wait a minute. I'm sorry. You know, I'm a little ADD. Before I say that, and maybe it's kind of a segue into who a potential opponent could be, who is the hacker? Did we ever find out who the hacker was?
Not yet. I have a feeling. I have a strong feeling it's probably Ali.
I do too.
Ali. I think that would be a great match too. AJ Styles and Mustafa Ali for the Intercontinental title. That would be great, actually. That's a good one to book.
Yeah, because who else is there? Because no other storylines can really intersect. He had his thing with Andrade, and I don't think they'll keep going back and forth with that, because, I mean, while it was entertaining, there was no real heat attached to it, like, ooh, Apollo and Andrade really hate each other. So, you know, you almost have to pull someone completely from left field to start something with Apollo Crews. And as far as his title reign goes, I hope he has a lengthy title reign. He's worked a long time to get to this point. And I'm hoping that he holds on to the belt. Is there anyone even out there that could take the belt off of him that
Yeah, I almost feel like anybody could. I think that I agree with you. I want him to have a long title reign too. I just don't think it'll happen. I really want it to, but I think that he has too many things working against him, and I feel like I don't even know if he'll make it to SummerSlam as the United States champion. Unfortunately, I do want to see him in more high-profile matches though. Yeah, and I think that I would love to see him in Buddy Murphy feud. I would really like to see that for at SummerSlam, actually. Buddy Murphy and Apollo. I think those guys would steal the show. Another way too is who knows if it's what they're going to do with Seth Rollins and his whole stable by this year's SummerSlam, because if they instead of going with Murphy, they could also go with, which I can imagine is Austin Theory, who's with them now. But you never know. An interesting thing too, and somebody we're leaving out, is if he's cleared to wrestle by then, is Samoa Joe. And I think that Apollo and Samoa Joe could also tear it up.
That'd be an awesome match. I love Samoa Joe. He's so good. He's so agile and acrobatic for a big man. He's such an intelligent wrestler. Ooh, that's a great matchup. And, you know, something else to consider too. You might have these two fellas who are expecting babies going out on a little paternity leave. Who's to say Daniel Bryan might not leave for a while, and who's to say that Seth might not leave for a while to do their whole bonding thing? So do you start cultivating a storyline on them? But, you know, it's Vince. Don't give a damn about no baby. Get back to work.
There's two interesting factors about that, actually. Number one is Daniel Bryan didn't necessarily want to wrestle during the pandemic, and he wanted to be off. So, that's an interesting factor to play into it, because if he actually gets his way and he takes himself out of that situation, then it changes everything up. But even more importantly, what you brought up, Seth Rollins, he's about to have a baby. And if this pandemic lasts longer than we expect, he doesn't want to carry anything with him. So and he was going to want to see the birth of his first child. So I'm pretty sure that they would take him off for, leading up to that pregnancy, which is a big factor too, because he's so into Raw's story, into Raw's main storyline so much. So who knows? And then we got Rey Mysterio possibly retiring on Monday. We all think it's a work though, but that's crazy.
Yep. And we still haven't got Roman Reigns back. Roman didn't want to wrestle because he has a diminished immune system. Big Roman hasn't come back. Sami Zayn's not gone forever. I see they reactivated Dolph Ziggler. Baron Corbin is still out there. What are they doing with Shinsuke Nakamura? There's a lot of guys who are just kind of hanging out back there. You don't have to think about Cedric and Ricochet anymore because you put them into a tag team. And we'll talk about the tag team picture in a second. But there's a lot of guys out there who are just, Buddy, who you mentioned. And there's just a lot of guys who are hanging out there, and they just don't know what to do with them. I feel like I'm watching week to week, and there's just no evolution. There's nothing going on. I know I can close my eyes, and I know who's going to be booked on every show every week. That's why it's so easy to miss the shows, because they're so predictable now. We're going to get, the same thing, Braun and maybe The Fiend, maybe not. AJ, Daniel Bryan, maybe an Uso. There's no surprise. There's no wow factor to the whole thing.
It almost feels like WWE is doing one out of two things, which I find very interesting. And I think you guys touched upon this when you guys had Cedric Alexander on, is that I feel that WWE is holding back really good storylines because they want an actual audience to react to them. But now I feel like they're having to play some of those storylines out because they don't have anything else to do, because they're losing ratings. So now they're having to say, all right, well, you know what? We're going to have to go with some of the storylines that we wanted to have an audience, we were initially waiting for, but now, we kind of have to do it. That's a great point. So DDT Cosplay, David in the chat, Dijakovic is making his debut. He's going to be coming up to the main roster. Dominic Dijakovic from NXT. He's had some great lights out matches with Keith Lee as of late. So that'll be really good for him to come up to that main roster. If I do see him coming up, we don't know if it's Raw or SmackDown yet. I heard speculation that it was SmackDown, but I would love to see him on Raw. I think that Dominic Dijakovic, he's a big guy that's agile, and he can do damn near just about everything.
He's gonna have to go to Raw, because they've brought up Matt Riddle, the bro, the original bro, up to SmackDown. So
I think Matt Riddle has a huge match at SummerSlam. I think it'll be Matt Riddle and Goldberg.
Oh, not Goldberg.
Yeah, I think that there's so much. Those guys have been talking so much shit about each other on social media. Then Goldberg had his special. You saw that run-in he had with Matt Riddle. I think now that they can possibly be on the same roster, it's gonna happen at SummerSlam. Goldberg, and we got to think, last year's SummerSlam, Goldberg was wrestling Dolph Ziggler. So
yeah. True,
this year, I think it could be Goldberg and Matt Riddle, and I think it's going to happen.
We're hanging in there. So, fans in the chat.
Yeah,
tell us. Tell us what you do.
We have a lot of Keith Lee fans in here right now. I want to ask you. So, tag team, is the tag team division in WWE? How's it been for you?
You know what? I have found that the Raw champs, the Street Profits, have been far more entertaining to me than the New Day. And I absolutely love the New Day. But the Street Profits, they're young, they're fresh, they got a lot of energy. They're obviously very popular among the roster. They've added the component now where they've got all the Performance Center people, crowded around the ring, offering some noise. Maybe that's helping performances and everything. But even the tag team picture has been a little lackluster. Other than the Street Profits, I'm just not sure what's going on the SmackDown side in terms of tag teams, especially now we have no Usos. For those of you who don't know, Jimmy Uso, Naomi's Uso, Jimmy Uso is going to be out for 6 to 9 months because he's had a terrible injury. I think it's like a knee injury or something like that. So he's going to be out. So you have no Usos in the picture. We lost the Revival to AEW. You don't have them in the picture. So you've got Kofi and Big E. I don't know. I just get the impression that Kofi is still a little salty how they took the belt off of him kind of unceremoniously. So the New Day have been falling a little flat to me lately, and there's no real direction for their storyline. You've got Otis and his partner, but they're more interested in the Otis Mandy Rose thing. You have the Viking Raiders. The Viking Raiders, I like them, but they're into their thing with the Street Profits, which has been pretty funny. I have to admit, I thought the first installment of it was stupid, but as they've gone on, they're doing all these different things, playing golf and stuff. It's really funny. Doesn't make sense, but at least it's entertaining. But all of that is on the Raw brand. So what do we do with the Blue brand? The Blue brand is looking a little tired on the tag team side.
I mean, there is Miz and Morrison, and we don't know. I don't know when Bobby Roode's coming back, if he's going to reteam with Dolph Ziggler. But I think that if we're going SmackDown, talking SmackDown first, I think it should be the New Day taking on Heavy Machinery. I think Otis and his partner Tucker should take on those guys. Otis is clearly over. But here's the thing. I think this is where you would turn Tucker heel, because Otis is getting so popular. He gets the girl. You know, the New Day beats Heavy Machinery. This gets Otis even more sympathy, and it makes him makes you think maybe he can be a contender to cash in his Money in the Bank and win a championship. Maybe he can. And I think that if you give that glimmer of hope a little bit more to Otis, it can get everybody thinking seriously, well, maybe this guy can actually win the world title.
I don't think they're going to give Otis any love like that. I think they like his buffoonery storyline with Mandy Rose, because there's always got to be one of those little silly love triangles. If this was the Attitude Era, him and Mandy would have been in the ring consummating their relationship in a bed in the ring during the pay-per-view. I like Otis, though. I think he's over, too, and I get it. Like, I think he's so cute. And I just want to, like, squeeze his cheeks. He's so sweet. He's like, you know, the everyman who just happens to get the hot girl one day. And it's like, good for you, Otis. Even from a female point of view, it's like, oh, he's so sweet. Give the sweet guy a chance. But I don't think they're going to. It's almost kind of like Rusev. When Rusev was on his thing with Rusev Day, and that was such a hot thing, and he was so over, and they messed it up. They messed it up with Rusev and Rusev Day and Aiden English, and brought Lana into the nonsense, and Lana and Aiden English. Lana's always messing something up. And I fear that this Otis Mandy Rose thing is going to be a similar parallel where Otis starts to get over, and then they're going to over exaggerate the Mandy Rose thing. And I don't know. And then what do you do with her? What do you do with her? A whole nother story.
This is David again in the chat. I love this idea. If you imagine Otis is about to cash in, and Tucker's hyping him up. He's down there with them. They're about to cash in that Money in the Bank. And then he gives the ref the suitcase. The bell rings, and then Tucker beats the shit out of Otis, costing him the Money in the Bank cash in. I think that would also be a great way to really get Otis even more sympathy from the fan base. Yeah. And I think, like, there's a lot of comparisons that I'm seeing with Otis and Dusty Rhodes actually being the everyman. And I think that that's a fascinating one. Obviously, there's only one Dusty Rhodes, but I do think it's a fascinating one, being that everyman that you spoke of, which Dusty Rhodes was back in the old NWA days. Yeah, for sure. So we will see what they do with that. And then lastly, we're left with our other 3 champions on the Blue brand, or the other men's champions. We've got Drew McIntyre on the Raw brand. We've got Adam Cole on the NXT brand. And we've got Braun Strowman, who is on the Blue brand as the champion. Braun, Fiend. Yeah, I feel it'll be the Fiend.
So we know that's where we're ultimately going to go. But what do we do with Drew McIntyre, especially since Seth could go out? You know, who do you throw him in there?
I feel that Drew McIntyre, this is very his title reign to me feels, first of all, I feel bad for him because he's been the world champion with no audience, number one. But number two, I feel that his title reign reminds me very much of when Dean Ambrose won the title and the year he wrestled Dolph Ziggler in the main event at WrestleMania for the Universal title or WWE title, whatever it was at the time. I don't necessarily. I know that they're building up a program right now with Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre, which I think could be pretty cool. Those guys worked together back when they were in TNA together. It's fresh for the WWE audience, but if you follow TNA back, maybe a few years ago, maybe like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, Lashley and Drew McIntyre were main eventing over there. So I think they could do a lot with that. But it's interesting. I think that it's worthy to be a main event. But I'm interested to see because so far we've had him wrestle Andrade, we've had him wrestle Seth Rollins, and we've had him wrestle now Bobby Lashley. So they're giving him new opponents, it seems, every month. So by the time we get to SummerSlam, who's somebody that could contend with Drew McIntyre? This is another one where I would say Samoa Joe. If Samoa Joe's ready to go, I think Samoa Joe-Drew McIntyre matchup would be phenomenal.
He just runs out, out of nowhere. They take him off the desk, or maybe he's on the desk and he has like a breakaway suit or something like down there, and he goes down and he beats the hell out of Drew McIntyre. But for all intents and purposes, I expect Drew to have a long title reign because we know Vince loves a big, greasy-haired man, and Drew is exactly that. And he's a good-looking guy, and people seem to like him and like to shake his hand. And I feel for him, too, that he hasn't had the full extent of his title reign with the crowd. At least he got his moment where Claymore kicked the shit out of Brock Lesnar, which personally, anytime someone kicks the shit out of Brock Lesnar makes me happy. So to see him, man, I have to love Brock like that for really selling it and putting him over like that because he deserved it. And, you always need a good spoil to make the match look good and sell the moves. So I'll give Brock his props for that, for really putting Drew over. But Drew ain't going nowhere anytime soon, no matter. Right now, they're just kind of flinging opponents at him and just seeing what sticks and what the people like and what's causing chatter.
Drew's good, though. Like, he's a good wrestler. He's entertaining. He's a big dude. I like Drew as the champion. I just want them to make sure that they know what they're going to do. I hope he has a long title reign to the point where he can actually enjoy an audience and embellish in his championship victory that happened back in April. But until that happens, I don't know. I mean, I really want to see him continue to have great matches, but I would love to see him in Samoa Joe. Another wrestler that I think he would be great against too, somebody that should test him a little bit, is Randy Orton. I'd also like to see Drew and Randy Orton. And we don't know what's going to happen with Edge also, because Edge could be thrown in there as well. Exactly.
Him and Edge got their thing. They've got their match coming up, the greatest wrestling match in the world. Okay, fellas.
That's going to be my bathroom break match. Oh my God. Those are the typical WWE matches. Like, it's so crazy watching. Like, I know WWE has a specific style of wrestling that they do. And if you watch it with all the holds and the rest holds, and then, okay, let's build the crowd up. Okay, let's calm them down. That style of wrestling to me is just a little boring to me. It's very slow. It's like watching, and sometimes, like sometimes you'll have a great match with that WWE style, but it's with the right opponent. But right. I equate the WWE style to watching, like, like when you watch like just an average episode of TV or an average movie, like, all right, it's okay. Like, that's good. That's like WWE style. Whereas I feel like NXT is like, it's one of those things, or that style, that quicker pace, is one of those like big superhero movies where you walk out and you're like, oh shit, so much happened. Yeah. Right? So that's just the way I feel about it. But I would like to see him, Drew. I'm going to go ahead and say Drew and Randy Orton.
That's a good spoil. You can always depend on Randy for a good match. Or, Vince could Vince, and, right when Drew is at the peak of his height, of his fame, they'll like bring Roman back and put Roman on that brand and then put the belt on Roman, or, something retarded like that. I got love for Roman, but I don't need to see Roman in a big match anytime soon. Which leaves us now with Braun Strowman.
Yeah.
Braun Strowman gonna have a lengthy reign? Again, Roman Reigns, the X Factor. I just don't think Braun is gonna have a long, lengthy reign. I like Braun a lot. I think he's fantastic on the mic and talking with people. They've been having him do silly stuff. He was doing the worm with Otis in the very poorly, I might add. He should never ever do that again. But I don't think there's not much they can do with Braun, making him a lengthy. He's a great fixture for the company, but I mean, I don't get that doesn't make me get up like, ooh, Braun's the champion. Or even Braun's in the match. I don't know. The mystique of Braun has kind of worn off for me.
I couldn't agree more. I think that you could tell that putting the title on him was such a last minute risky decision. And I don't think it's paying off. I was excited about the Bray Wyatt match. Mm-hmm. But you can almost feel, though, it's going to be The Fiend. Like, he wrestled Bray Wyatt. That storyline just stopped awkwardly. And they didn't get to flesh it out because we didn't get The Fiend. And I think that if we do get The Fiend, we'll see a different style of match. But it's going to have to be some type of gimmick included with it. Exactly. Like, I don't know, like a kind of, I don't know if it's still in the Performance Center, then we might have another production style match with The Fiend. Or, you know, and that would be interesting, especially having them do what they did with John Cena, but with Bray Wyatt, especially since Bray Wyatt was a part of that stable back the whole Wyatt family. The only other thing I can think of is that if they do like a crazy like Firefly Funhouse like death match or something, then I can see that happening in a live arena. But who knows? But I definitely think the opponent there is going to be The Fiend.
The only way that matchup works because The Fiend, Braun's whole thing is he's like a big strong man, slamming things around. It doesn't work with The Fiend because then what is The Fiend's offensive against him? You know, was he going to spear him to death or cut a hole in the ring? The only way that works, it makes it entertaining if they do another cinematic match where they do the family reunion. They pull in the other brother out of the B team to kind of watch and oversee the thing, and they do it on a farm and they do this whole thing. It's the only way it works because Braun doesn't really have a character. He really
they could totally do that. Where I remember they had the match with Matt Hardy where they blew up or maybe it was Randy Orton when they blew up the house that Abigail lived in. But they can go back and do one of those those matches for The Fiend and Bray Wyatt. And I agree. I think I'd be very interested in seeing that because I would like to see The Fiend in a horror style WWE match.
Yeah.
That'd be very interesting.
Yeah, that's the only way it works for me. And that's the only opponent. That's the only avenue that I see for Braun because he doesn't really have anything. You know, you don't have another big, strong, get these hands kind of man that you can put him in with where it makes sense. So, you know, we'll see if they start working on the family reunion. I love a good family reunion. You know, maybe there'll be some ribs involved. So hopefully that'll be the conclusion of that. Wow, we are already at the top of the hour. Joe, I'm having fun with you because we never did a show together before.
It's true. We never have.
Never, not once. So before we wrap it up for the evening, we've got the Sting Lost tape.
Oh, boy.
Sting Lost tapes available today on WWE Network. What are you looking most forward to about that? Are you with the Crow or are you with the Surfer?
I'm a Crow Sting guy. I actually saw it. It's 30 minutes long. The half of it is behind the scenes of him getting ready to wrestle Big Bubba Rogers, who a lot of fans might remember is the Big Boss Man, Ray Traylor. So it's Slamboree, I believe, 93. He's preparing for the match. The one thing that hit me about watching it is how many of those wrestlers aren't with us anymore. They interview Vader, Ray Traylor, Brian Pillman. There's Mean Gene Okerlund. There's so many people that just aren't alive anymore, and it's staggering to me. And I think that was really heartbreaking, actually, going back and watching that, seeing all these familiar faces that I've known. But then there's a young Buff Bagwell in it, and I was like, oh, Buff, I forgot about Buff Bagwell. But it's interesting. It's crazy seeing Sting in his colorful face paint and his flat top and just talking like a normal human being. It's insane to me. So it's a true blast from the past. Highly recommend watching it. But I'm excited to see if there's another part to the Undertaker special tonight.
Yeah, so we're going to tune in for that. I finally, Nate's been on me about watching Dark Side of the Ring. I finally got a chance to get caught up on some of those. I watched the Chris Benoit I sobbed. I can't even lie. The Chris
So
Benoit one made me. I cried so many tears for that, and I watched the Fabulous Moolah was season 1. I'd seen that one already. The Last Days of Owen Hart.
yeah.
Those are the 2 I've seen so far. Also very sad. I still to this day cannot believe they went on. That man fell to his death. They said, fix the ring and keep going. Keep going.
Yeah,
Show.
there's a lot I didn't know about that Owen Hart one. Same thing. There's a lot I didn't know about the Chris Benoit one. Like, I think one of the most heartbreaking things about the Benoit one was when his son said, like he saw Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit at WrestleMania 20, both world champions celebrating in the ring. And he said, I wish they both would have retired after this night because maybe they'd still both be here. And it's kind of heartbreaking to think about that. And then you got the Owen Hart one. That's so crazy that Owen, like, he asked for his release from WWE. Imagine if they would have just given it to him and he would have just joined Brett in WCW. Like, so many things could have been so different. You know what I mean? Those dark sides of the ring are very, very, very good. Like, I know they did Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth on the first season, but I think, like, if they did a straight up Miss Elizabeth, well, I guess they really dive deep into Miss Elizabeth, but there's a lot more that they could do. What are some dark sides of the ring that you'd want to see?
I'd want to see first, we wait a long time to see it. I want to see Vince, of course.
Yeah.
Like somebody make a real, true, deep dive into Vince's indiscretions and practices. I mean, they did it to the Fabulous Moolah, and she was a booker. Hey, give Vince the same honor. I would like to see them do maybe one on Paige, because Paige's tenure was very short, but it was very drama-filled, from her injury to the sex tape stuff to, she had a real rough time there, drug addiction and all the things that she was going through. I wouldn't mind seeing one on her and how that contributed. Probably her injuries and things contributed to that. Maybe one on Paige's ex-fiance,
Alberto Del Rio.
Yeah, maybe one on him, because he just had an incident recently. I feel like I read something recently about him.
I think I would see Alberto Del Rio. I'd love to see one on CM Punk, the final days of CM Punk.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's another interesting one. The Pat Patterson sex scandal would be an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a really fascinating one. And let me think. I would. You know what? Paul Heyman would be really interesting to me too.
Yeah. Paul Heyman's a fascinating guy, and there's probably I'm sure he knows where all the bodies are buried.
Another one too would be cool is the Click.
Ooh, I didn't even think about that. That's a good one too.
Yeah. Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, the Kid, and Triple H. I think that could be very interesting.
Shoot. I mean, there's just so many ways they could go. They could even do a deeper dive into the Hardys and call it like the Hardy family and get their perspective.
Oh, definitely would be great. Yeah, that'd be a great one.
And the fact that Natalya is still there and how she's kind of jobbing now after they had the belt on her, and Brett and the whole thing when they were in the ring, and who got tackled in the ring during the Hall of Fame speech?
Oh, Brett. That was Brett.
Yeah. And just, they have a lot of different things they could explore with the Hart family. Jim Neidhart, maybe his history of what led up to him having a heart attack. Is that what he passed away from?
I think so.
Yeah.
His head on the floor or something, yeah. Something
like that. So the Hart family, there's so much there. That could be a 2 or 3 episodes, because they're wrestling royalty. And I'm sure they've known Vince a long, 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 long time. So, yeah, those are some. Let us know in the comments. Dark Side of the Ring. Who do you want to see Vice talk about? Maybe we'll tweet them. Maybe they'll listen to us, and then we'll sue them for taking our idea. So, let us know in the chat.
Oh, that's a good one. Another one is the Warrior holding up Vince in that SummerSlam. I think that's a good one. Yeah, that's a great one.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And even back with the Hart, even more in depth on the Montreal screw job. Like, there's so much you could get the family's perspective on that.
Right.
There's a lot they could do, and those guys are still pro. Bret Hart's a old guy there, but maybe the Rhodes family, and now how they've gone off in their own direction and doing their own thing. we'll see what happens with Dark Side of the Ring. But those are so well made. Vice is amazing, and it would be dope to really collaborate with them. So before we wrap it up for the evening, Joe, give it to us. What do we need to pay attention to besides, of course, Illuminerdi.com? What you got going that we need to pay attention to?
We're going to be dropping some more exclusives this week, so that'll be something to watch out for. You can watch Jay and Nate, usually on Sundays, right here doing the Illuminerdi Wrestling Order. Later tonight on Twitch, Josh and Elle are going to be doing the season finale of Rick and Morty, and they're going to be doing it under the substance of marijuana. So that'll be happening over on Twitch. But yeah, we have shows every single weekend, and we're going to be releasing more exclusives and features right here on this YouTube channel for the Illuminerdi. But thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, we are 420 here. Inglewood, always up to no good. Maybe we might have an unboxing soon. Make sure you follow me on all my platforms, Jandra LaBeouf, every platform, Instagram, Twitter. Don't add me on Facebook. That's just for the family, so don't worry about me on there. But add me everywhere else, and subscribe to my channel, Bad Culture TV. I'm very happy that I'm very close to hitting a threshold. I'm almost to my 7,500th subscriber on Bad TV. Woo! I have a very strong goal of getting to 10,000 subs before the end of the year. So make sure you follow me there. But of course, it's all about the Illuminerdi on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube. There's so many shows. Even if you like this show, there's a whole lot of other terrific shows that talk a lot of other great stuff. So make sure you're subscribed and locked in, and visit theilluminerdi.com every day. Click some ads while you're there. And if you want to donate to the channel, let us know, and we will give you several ways that you can become a member of the Illuminerdi family. Maybe we'll start a Patreon. You never know. You never know what we might do. We've got a lot of stuff. I know I've got a lot of industry stuff that I'd be happy to put on a threshold thing for Illuminerdi Patreon people. Patreon.
I like the Patreon idea. I'm a fan.
Yes. So thank you for tuning in. It's always a pleasure. Joe, thank you. Bless you for tuning in. Shout out to our producer, Josh, who's back there, who was grubbing. I wanted to know what he was eating back there. So shout out to him.
He was definitely eating mac and cheese.
Whatever that was, it was looking goddamn good. And I wanted some because he was tearing it up back there. So stay tuned. See you next Sunday and have a great week.
Later, guys.